Hello, welcome back to our channel, WaY out here. I am in the duck yard today. I wanted to go through some of the things that we have in our duck first aid kit and whether or not you need one, stuff like that. So obviously we have ducks and we've got plans for more things with these guys. So yes, we do have a duck first aid kit that is specifically used for the ducks, and I'm just going to go through and show what we keep in there. So if you've seen my videos before, you've seen how I treat bumblefoot. That's usually your biggest concern when you have ducks. Other things can happen. If they get stepped on and they break something, of course that's probably unfortunately fatal. But yeah, if they just have bumblefoot, this is what we use for a first aid kit. So we've just got a bucket, and I keep a bucket like this that is not food grade, that does not look food grade, so you don't get it mixed up with anything. You can put food in and it's a completely different color than the brining bucket my husband used when he brines meat. You want something that makes it obvious that this is to soak ducks in, if that makes sense. You do not want to put food in this after you've soaked your ducks in it. So we have that, and in that bucket is the lid for the bucket with a hole cut out, because if you have a really wiggly duck, you can get them in there and put their head here, and then you won't have to hold them in and they can't get out. So that's helpful for ducks that just don't want to be in the bucket. Other ducks, like Giggles, takes it pretty well. She'll try to get out, but she's big enough that we can't use this anyway, because, you know, it would be up over here. But that's another thing. You cut your lid for your bucket, make that work. And in there we've got Epsom salts. So this is what you're going to want to soak your ducks in, your ducks' feet in if they get bumblefoot. You're going to want to soak your ducks' feet in if they get bumblefoot. This will soften up the plug, make it easier to pull out if you have to pull out, and if you can't get the plug out, it will soften it enough and soften up the plug enough that if you spray it with antiseptic or you put Neosporin on it, it's actually going to help. It's not going to just sit on the surface of that lump and do nothing. Another thing we keep in here are rubber gloves. So these are used only to treat ducks because bumblefoot is a staph infection, and if you have a cut, which you do, if you watch my other videos, you know we're injecting a cat with a version of remdesivir is what it's called, but for FIP, and I was trying to pet her and she was trying to play with me the other night and I got a scratch. So anyways, you have a cut, a scrape, a scratch, anything, you're going to want these to keep any infection off of you, spreading from you to duck, basically. So, and besides that, we've just got, this is our actual first aid supplies. And in here, we have not had to use this yet, but this is a kit that has scissors, cutting tools, knives. We did use this. I shouldn't say we haven't used this yet, but we did use these scissors to pull one plug out one time, and they're a little bit stained from that. But nothing else. I mean, you can see this is not even opened. This is a surgical blade, sterile surgical blade. The rest of these have not been used. We just don't cut our ducks. We don't try to make any more problems than we already have. We would cut into bumblefoot, basically backyard surgery is what that's called, if it got to the point where we feel like it was the duck's life or backyard surgery. That would be the deciding factor, and we've never been there. We've never had to make that call, thank goodness. Like, we've always just been very successful with soak, antiseptic spray, Neosporin, and wrapping the wound as it starts to soften up a little bit. So, but that's your call. If you want to do backyard surgery, then like one of these kits would be really good. So we have that, and then obviously we've got gauze. And these usually get cut because they're usually way too big for the ducks, especially like this one here. So that's another thing we keep in there, gauze. Get those out of the way. I've got alcohol cleansing wipes, and these have been hard to find in light of everything, you know. You can't say too much or like YouTube flags your video, but everything that's happening right now with everybody getting sick. So these are hard to find, but you can make these. Like, get the gauze, these in smaller sizes, and get rubbing alcohol and just pour them on those and put them in a jar, like a mason jar, and seal it back up. That's what I would do for an antiseptic wipe if I couldn't get these, which I have done before to use for like us. But I still have a couple of these left in the duck first aid kit. So they'll just stay in here. Once I put stuff in here, I don't take it out just because I feel like it's for the ducks and we're going to leave it for the ducks. We'll get separate first aid kits for our human selves. So the other thing is these, this Banix, and this is almost out, but I have another one of these. So as soon as this runs out, we will replace it. But this is just an antibacterial, antifungal. So if they get bumblefoot, you've seen in my video, spray the foot. This will really help. This can absorb pretty well if you soak first with the Epsom salts and loosen up that plug and loosen up the infection. So this works pretty well. There's also a different brand called Vetericin that has one that I also am going to pick up and try from Tractor Supply. So maybe one of these days I'll take everybody with me on a trip to Tractor Supply and show you what I look for, and when I go through the rows, like, because I check everything and see the different things that come and go, and even if I don't need like duck food, for example, I'll see if they have a new kind of better, more enhanced, I don't know, like organic version of duck food. So it's getting a little warm, but it's okay. Yeah, and then we've just got tweezers. This will help if you need to get the plug out and it's tiny. These will help. That's not what I've used them for. I've used them to kind of grab and pull like tape around, or use to just like hold something in place. But these will help pull the plug out if you need them to. These sharp ones might help more. I don't know. I've never used these to pull a plug out, but they are here. They're in our duck first aid kit just in case. And in case we ever do have to do backyard surgery, I've used this only to cut off bandages. I have not used this to cut into a duck yet. But if you ever have to, one of these X-Acto knives with a couple extra blades might be really nice to have. Like I said, it's a last resort for me, cutting into their feet and doing backyard surgery. So that would be, like I said, life or death. Like, if I don't cut this infection out of the duck, then she will die. That would be why I would do it. Other than that, I would just, like I said, soak and spray. That's worked really well for us. We got some tape, this medical tape to hold on. Once you put the spray and then the Neosporin and the gauze, then you want to tape it on with this. So this sticks pretty well, but it won't stick to the duck itself. You have to like stick this tightly to like gauze. So unfortunately it does not stick to like a duck's foot, but that's okay. And this is stuff that, again, you have to do this stuff a few times to figure out what you need and what's going to work for you. And you'll figure out if you find one of these that does stick to like their leg or something and you can get a good wrap around their leg, then by all means stick it right to their leg. I mean, do what works for you. And then we've got a couple of these. These will actually adhere a little bit better to the duck. These are just a different kind of medical tape. I do need a couple more of these, so I'm going to pick up more of these when I go to Tractor Supply too. I don't know if they have these. If not, I'm going to pick these up at the pharmacy when I go today to get a couple of things. The pharmacy is in the grocery store, so that's where I usually go to get this first aid stuff. But you can get it wherever you can get first aid stuff. Dollar store even, maybe, probably has these. So the other thing we've got is Neosporin. I try to get just the original. This one can help. This is like a burn relief, although this is not recommended for ducks. I've used this on our ducks and I have had no problem with it, but it has been said by others that you shouldn't use this. So if you're concerned about it, look into it. This does not have lidocaine, I don't think. I think it's something else, but it's the lidocaine that you don't want. So you don't want anything with lidocaine, but this is a burn relief and it does help them. But then this is just a standard original Neosporin ointment, and this is what you would put on like after you spray it. So you spray with your antiseptic, and then you would put this on, and then gauze right on the spot where they have the bump for their bumblefoot. And then I also have this colloidal silver. This is pretty good actually for first aid gel, but we have one of these in our first aid kit too for humans, but this is just the one we use for ducks. So this is in our first aid kit for ducks, and you would use this either before or instead of the Neosporin. So this is kind of whatever I feel like is the best to put on that duck that day. So every situation's different. I like to have a couple of options for what I'm looking for. So, and this is the last thing that we keep in this Tupperware. It's empty. except for that wrapper. I'll throw that away. This is the last thing we keep in the Tupperware, and this is vet wrap. And we got this at Tractor Supply too. You can get this online. The stuff's pretty cheap. It's self-adhesive. It sticks to itself. It's stretchy. This is the only one I have left, so I do need to go back and get more of this. And I probably should do it soon because this is probably enough to wrap maybe 1 foot. And we haven't actually had that much bumblefoot over this summer. Last summer it was crazy. Like the ducks were just like 2020, that summer the ducks were crazy. They were getting bumblefoot all the time. I had to like take care of all of them. We had like half of them with wrapped feet like most of the summer. So but this summer they've actually been pretty good, and I'm not sure why. Maybe they're older, they're not jumping around so much. But yeah, this is the vet wrap. This is what I would get. It works the best in my opinion, but if you don't like this, then I'm sure there's something else out there. I'm sure you can maybe make something like just a tape work. But I like to put this over the tape just to hold everything together, keep it in place, because they're not going to stop swimming and they're not going to stop running around and walking in their own poop. So after you clean their wound, just putting them back down and letting them walk around in the environment where they got the infection and the bumblefoot is, in my very humble opinion, not the best idea. So that's why we choose to wrap their feet after we soak and clean the wound. Again, everything's discernment. You've got to do what works for you. If this method doesn't work for you, that's fine. But I have had great success with using this, just a soak, spray, avoid cutting the duck at all costs. You can even avoid like pulling the plug out if you can get it to, you know, get enough of the antiseptic in there and you can get the plug softened up enough that it accepts it. Eventually it's just going to go away if you don't introduce anything new into it. So that's just what we found works for us, and we're trying to do things, like I said, the most non-invasive, yeah, I think that's right, the most non-invasive way possible when it comes to our ducks. We don't want to do anything that would potentially make something worse, and I feel like unless your duck's life is on the line, cutting into them could potentially make it worse. So we have no intention to do backyard surgery unless the infection starts to go up the leg. And if it starts to go up the leg, I mean, you've got not a good chance that the duck's going to make it anyway, so you may as well try to save it by performing the backyard surgery. So that's my 2 cents on it. So as far as whether or not you need a duck first aid kit, you don't need one. If you have a lot of ducks and you get a lot of bumblefoot, I would just suggest it. That way you can put all this stuff together like we do. We keep everything together in this box and it's all here, and you have your antiseptic wipes and you're all ready to go. And you've got everything in here, and you can just put this in the bucket, right? Put this in the bucket with your Epsom salts and your gloves and your lid. And then when your duck has bumblefoot, you just grab this, grab it and go. So that's our suggestion. That's how we deal with it. That's how it's made it super easy for us. But again, these are just suggestions. These are just things that we've come to find make having ducks a little bit easier, because if you have them, eventually you're going to have a situation where you have bumblefoot and you're going to have to probably treat it, because if you don't, it could get worse. So we choose to just treat it when we see a duck limping, treat it and move on. And we've never had an incident where we've had to actually cut a duck, thank goodness. We did have Moose, our male cayuga. He's back there. I don't know if you can see him. He's the pretty boy with the green head behind the locust tree. But he actually was limping this summer, and we thought he had bumblefoot. So I had my son go out and grab him and catch him and hold him. And I looked on the bottom of his feet, and I didn't find any bumps, any lesions, anything whatsoever. So I think he may have just gotten hurt, but he's not limping anymore. He's fine now. So again, don't just like assume that you have to like cut and spray and do stuff. Like actually check their feet, because in that situation, had I gotten all this stuff out and gotten ready and got my gloves on and had my son grab him, and for him to not have bumblefoot, like that's kind of a frustrating situation. But yeah, just check them first, and then if you notice that they do have bumblefoot, then all you've got to do is go get your kit. It's ready to go, and you're ready to help your duck. So that is our suggestion on a duck first aid kit. hopefully you guys got some good ideas and you've decided whether or not you need one. We'll always probably have this set up just because it works really well. And I am going to, over the winter, especially when bumblefoot is much less prominent, I'm going to restock this first aid kit because we are, as you guys saw, we are getting kind of low on several things in here. So maybe I'll head to Tractor Supply and do that today. So thanks for watching from way out here. Bye!